Welcome back to Brothers in Boots. My name is Mike.
My name is Jeff.
And today we'll be talking about laces, everyone's absolute favorite topic. So riveting. What are we drinking today, Jeff?
We are drinking a George Remus private pick that I did in 2021. Red label that I think is black now, and I don't think it says King of the Bootleggers anymore. I'd have to look, but I think there was a issue with that, and they had to stop. This is a 127.3 proof. Definitely can't say that it's one of the best picks that I ever did. It just didn't bring very many great options to the table. I've really been impressed with any of the Remuses, including the $300 limited editions.
The Great Gatsby.
It was a cool experience.
Cool deal. Alrighty, so when we talk about laces, you have three basics, right? We have leather, we have paracord, we have cotton. There are going to be some like weird variants in there, like Kevlar reinforced paracord. A lot of people have rounded leather laces now. I have a pair. Shockingly enough, the nice thing about leather is that the square laces like these hold when you tighten them eyelet by eyelet. The round leather laces do not. So it seems to be more of a function of geometry more so than the actual item itself. I had assumed when I bought those, since it'd go cool on a shell cordon pair, that I'd get all the same benefits but get a paracord looking kind of lace. No, they let go just like every other round lace does, shockingly enough. So but oh good.
There's flat laces and there's waxed too.
Yep. But when we talk about laces, generally speaking, we talk about them in three phases, right? Like brand new for break-in, we talk about them in use in the work world, and then we talk about how pretty they are for your fancy boots, because if you talk to most people, that number 3 is probably the only one that matters to them. It's how pretty they are in their fancy boots. But from a work perspective, it is kind of important to think about, because busting a pair of laces sucks, right? It's kind of one of those things to deal with. So we're starting off with leather laces, right? So this is a pair from Guarded Goods, but your leather laces may vary. Like this is just Guarded Goods is nice because he has a ton of colors. He does them all in aluminum or chrome tanned, because this is not an area you want veg tan laces. Veg tan laces are hard, they frail, they drop little frilly bits. He's done some Wicket and Craig ones before. I don't like them. They break easy. They fliddle everywhere. They need way more conditioning. Chrome, just like the tongue, this is a position where chrome tan makes way more sense. They do need conditioning at certain periods. They don't just sit there forever with no conditioning and just stay intact.
And they can be over conditioned very easily as well.
Yep, make them too stretchy. But most people, I've heard some dissenting opinions. Whether they're real or not doesn't matter. Everyone's mileage may vary. It's laces. This isn't fucking hardcore fact science channel where we're gonna go figure out the reality of how this all works. No, most people prefer leather for breaking in, and then generally switch to paracord. I've heard people do it the other direction. Doesn't seem like it would add any benefit from that way. It would just make them bite into the leather easier. But most people choose leather for a couple reasons. One, it's natural. Number 2, it flexes and moves a little bit more, especially as you walk, especially as these break-in, because they do require a smidge of break-in, versus something like paracord, which is like these laces right here, which won't ever like stretch, move, or break in. Like it's parachute cord. It's rated for either 550 or 750, and they have some that are 1,000. I'm assuming most of the stuff's for the 550. It's weighted for tensile straight parachutes of 550 pounds.
It will stretch more, but it doesn't move more, which you just said. It has a tendency, in my opinion, to stay in place better. So if you are tying, at least with the square ones, not necessarily the circular, but if you want to have it a lot looser in the ball area or in the instep area, and you want to have it a lot tighter up at your ankle, it usually will stay that way, at least for me.
No, I would agree with these square kind of laces compared to the round leather ones. I have no problem basically having my tensioning specifically the way I want at every single eyelet. And every eyelet, even to speed hook, obviously, you could really dial in the fit exactly how you want. And with something round or something like these Paracord, this tends to just, as you walk in the boot over the day, evenly distribute across everything. So if you try to leave those differences, it'll just even out across all the laces.
And there are different quality levels, even within tanning types and even within thicknesses. The brands usually go with a really high one, usually one that we can't buy because the quantities are too high. I can't remember the name of that brand that they normally use, but if anybody wants to know, I could probably find it. But there are different levels. I mean, what you're going to buy from Amazon is probably not going to be as high quality as what you're going to find from Guarded Goods. Guarded Goods is probably going to be about the same quality as what you're going to find from Whites, Franks, Nicks, stuff like that.
Yeah, Jesse just has a lot of color options and a lot of unique choices that standard people aren't going to stock. And most people probably get their raw hide laces from the same place. I doubt that JK or Nicks or Whites is sourcing anywhere different than somebody like Franks or Westco. It's most likely all the same back internal distributor. Maybe they get them through a different distributing partner, but the distributors are probably getting it all from the exact same source.
Color choices can vary. I don't think that Frank's offers a black. I think Nicks might have just started. I don't think White's offers a black. I did get a bunch of black laces from Westco a year or so ago. I haven't gone through them all yet. I ordered some white ones, white leather laces that are square from a place in North Carolina, and they're actually holding up really well. I haven't broken any of them yet. I expected that they wouldn't last as long, but they're doing well.
Yeah, especially if to get them white, you have to kind of bleach the crap out of them, which tends to screw with the fibers in the tanning process. So that does make sense. I mean, overall, leather laces are leather laces. There's lots of like square styles like this. The more unique ones you'll see is people who make the flat leather laces that they custom dye them. Those are a lot harder to come by. They tend to be quite a bit more expensive. I don't think I've ever seen a pair under like $80. And I don't know anyone that's bought any except for people who've like bought a pair of creosotes. You get a custom pair of hand dyed laces with his stuff. He makes them to match whatever color the boots themselves were. I think Dennis from Custom Craft is looking into starting doing that, sending out like leather matching laces or a contrasting color if you choose them, leather laces that are made for your boots. But I do know there are a couple makers out there who do make flat laces. They sell on places like Etsy and Reddit and stuff like that you can get some stuff from, but
flat is too refined for me.
Mm-hmm. A lot of people like them because these twist. So like as you wear these a whole bunch, you find they kind of like twist in the eyelets and stuff, and they get this kind of look like this to them. A lot of people like the flat leather laces because they basically stop that altogether, right? Like it'll maintain its look. Once again, do they probably last longer than the square ones? If the eyelets are big enough, maybe. It's hard to know. I mean, I know Gabbard's never broken a pair of his. And he's had some of his models, are 6-7 years old. But once again, he uses these big giant eyelets to make that happen. It doesn't come in a lot of boots. So once again, even Jesse from Guarded Goods, like some of these, this is more of like a regular size one. It's going to match what you see. He has some that straight up have a thing. If you don't have an eyelet of a specific size, that you will not be able to fit these through it. And I have had pairs of Franks that I've bought in colors for that I've had to take them out to my vise and use a rounding hammer in the vise to smash them down a little bit to fit through the eyelets. So that is definitely a thing. But same thing with something like these Paracord. A lot of these Paracord laces have these little brass ends on them, and a lot of times they don't want to fit through every eyelet either. So you might run into that exact same problem there. This is Pisgah doesn't do this anymore. This is the style that you can buy a pair of crimpers and do yourself. The ones they do now are completely one piece unibody that are done with hydraulic press. So They look quite a bit better than that. But
I mean, you can buy the crimpers.
Yep.
I think I've seen them on Amazon for like $25. I have a crimper that looks very similar that I bought for crimping wires for motorcycle and car. They look the same to me. Maybe I could just change my feet, and I already have the tool. But
Yep.
it's not impossible to get, and it's not overly expensive if you wanted to do things yourself.
Yeah, which would be nice because like one of the cool things about leather laces is you get them in some extremely long widths and you cut them to fit. Obviously, if you're going to buy something like this that's got finished tips, you're not really going to be able to cut these to fit, right? Like you've got to get the right size. So a lot of the Paracord brands do have sizes that you can order from, but they generally don't have graduation. So if you wanted to make your own perfect length, I guess you could from that perspective. But it's just one of those realities that like leather has a lot of benefits, very few drawbacks. Because here's the other thing: say Jeff snapped a lace right in his white pair for his monkeys. As long as he's got enough left on the ends, all he's got to literally do is tie a knot an inch in on both sides, and he's good to go. Yeah, is it going to look good? No. Will it get him through the day? Absolutely will.
Oh, and if I leave my laces too long, then depending on where it breaks, I might be able to adjust the laces and the holes and still have enough to keep on going without having to tie a knot.
Yep, I've had that happen to me before.
However, I don't usually keep my laces that long. I don't like wrapping them around the shaft of the boot before I tie them. There are pros and cons to it.
Yeah, I mean, I've had ones that have busted high enough up because so obviously, like when you cut these the first time, they're going to get quite a bit longer as they break in because these do stretch out and break in. So I've had them break before at a point where I just left them just long enough that I hadn't trimmed them yet that I could move it through and get a good tie on that's not near as big, but is functional until I swap the pair. Because like I said, there's only one particular tannage of leather that I've had issues with, and it's a particular Horween one. It's a weird one that starts with an I. I want to say Illuminati, but it looks something like Illuminati. And they have like this like natural color that goes really good. It's like a Tuscanello or like a natural Chrome XL color, so it's in that kind of like brown bronzy color that goes good with a lot of stuff. As a slightly darker color than like a Tuscanello or a bronze. And that particular tannage, he hasn't sold it in a long time. I think I've broken 4 or 5 laces in that tannage. So it's not a very good tannage for laces, clearly. But I mean, one's backwards, sideways, forward. This is the downside of leather laces is they can break, but they come with upsides, right? And I think just in general for a lot of people, to kind of have like a manly, like grounded worldview look on laces. Because some of these Paracord laces do get like awfully out there. Because if you go to a site like Paracord World that I used to frequent for years when I would sleeve power supply cables, you could buy Paracord in about any color and design you could imagine. You want 27 shades of blue in Paracord, you could buy 27 shades of blue. As long as you're willing to crimp your own, the world's your oyster. And you could make them specific lengths. A lot of people struggle with Paracord and some of the really long lengths besides people like Generation laces because, they need a 10 or a 12 inch boot length, which just is not a common one a lot of those guys are going to have sitting around and available. Well, I mean, Generation is because those are meant for firefighters. Those are Kevlar reinforced. But that's it. Okay, let's get into that. So Paracord laces. What are Paracord laces, right? There's something like this. They are parachute cord. Lots of us use Paracord for tons of things. People put them on their lever action rifles. People make keychains out of them. They make them as knife scales to replace wooden scales or micarta or resin scales for a knife. They make lanyards out of them, all kinds of stuff. People use Paracord for a ton of things. And this is just another use in laces, right? They don't stretch. They really don't break in or anything. They are what they are. Now, part of them being round, they tend to have the nature of if you don't tie them snug all the way up, that whatever looseness you leave anywhere will balance out across and redistribute across all the laces, which in turn could cause one to slip off a speed hook. I personally don't like Paracord laces. This is why they're available on the table to show instead of in a pair of boots. I've never liked them. They pull on my feet weird. They never quite give enough give. They tend to fatigue the top of my foot quite a bit more over the course of the day. I've given the good old college try a couple times for paracord laces. I just don't particularly care for them.
Another thing that very rarely anybody talks about, but I bought some. I'm just trying to do a quick Google search to see if I can make it come up. I can't remember what they're called, but I bought a whole spool of stretchy lace. I mean, it looks like paracord, but it's got some stretch to it. I bought some hoping that I could kind of turn a pair of boots into kind of pull-ons so that I could stretch it a little bit to pull it on and off my foot. I haven't applied them yet, but I anticipate that it's going to go well. It's not going to age well.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, because I used to make those for sneakers where they had like little twisty ends on them that you'd put into your sneakers to make your sneakers pull on. I know what you're talking about.
Well, there's a lot of them that are meant for that purpose that are expensive. Like they'll give you like a pack of like 13 different laces about this big, where you put one through each set of eyelets going up. They've got some that is a giant piece that's got a securing piece of plastic. But the one that I was buying, I was able to get a whole spool of it, and I can't remember what it was called. So it was really cheap. But buying a whole spool of it was cheap as fuck, and it got around the expensive prices of stuff that were predetermined for it. But I'm failing at finding it. Maybe I'll find it later, or look on the purchase that I made.
Yep. I mean, it's an interesting idea. I think you're right. I don't think it'll age well. I also am wondering if it would cinch down hard enough to work. I mean, and you'd have to start with a pair of boots that you did regular lacing to begin with to make sure like your tongue trained and everything correctly before you did it, so you wouldn't be able to do it right away. But yeah, I mean, so paracord obviously is quite strong. Doesn't break near as easy. It's a little bit more abrasion resistant. It gets a good split in as long as there's a bunch of these like little white cords that are inside this. Like if you were to cut this in half, there's a ton of little white corded material in there that kind of makes the paracord work. So when I used to sleeve power supply cables, like that's what you would do is you would pull all of that interior of that out.
It's called bungee cord.
Oh, okay.
I bought a big spool of bungee cord. You can get it in all sorts of diameters, so I chose what I thought was the right diameter. Like I said, I haven't tried it yet. The white leather laces are aging so well, and I did buy it in white. I don't anticipate that it's going to turn the right kind of shade of dirty to really look good. It's probably going to stay too bright. I'll get around to playing with it at some point.
Let's say bungee cord. I remember those for like towing and stuff, and they were like this thick and had hooks on the end. I don't remember being able to buy a spool of like real thin bungee cord like that.
I bought, actually it tells me what I bought. I bought a 1/8 thickness, and I bought 100 feet of it. It was $28.
I wonder if it's going to be like restrict down too much. I just think of the bungee cords. I have bungee cords for like towing and like tying stuff down the back of my truck, and that shit pulls down pretty hard.
The thicker that it is, the harder that it's going to be to get it to move. The thinner stuff does move easier. I don't know. Like I said, I haven't put it in yet, and it is a factor of being lazy, and it is going to make them fit loosely. Obviously, it's not good for somebody who needs a tight fit, but I've worn enough cowboy boots in my life and enough Timberlands that I didn't actually lace up that I'm okay with a little bit of looseness for laziness reasons. I've been too lazy to try the lazy way. So one day.
Yeah. It's one of those things. But like I said, paracord tends to be more popular. People who do like heavy duty work in their stuff tends to be a very popular choice. So I said generation laces is the ones we see in the Facebook groups a ton. That seems to be the one of the
Paracord, and it comes in endless different colors and styles, and yeah.
patterned, non-patterned. You want 27 shades of blue, you can get it. You want some that have lightning running across it, it exists. So you do have a lot of options there from that perspective.
You are paying these lace companies to do the work for you and to locate the stuff. It really is a matter of convenience to an extent. I mean, they're buying these paracord things from really the same places that you could buy the crimping tool for, like I said, like 20-30 bucks, and you could customize your lace length, which would be an advantage. But these places have already sourced it, and these places have already crimped it to the lengths. So if those lengths work, it's certainly easier for the buyer, but you're paying for it, because they've got a profit margin involved in bringing it in and cutting it and crimping it themselves.
Yeah, and they're also buying it in links that get them volume discounts too. When I was buying it for Sleeving Power Supplies, you bought it by the 100 foot was the smallest that they sold from a lot of places. Like Paracord World's one of the biggest distributors of paracord, probably in the United States. And like I said, it wasn't expensive. Like 100 feet was like 16 to 18 bucks, but it's 100 feet of paracord. Comes in a bag about this big and it's about this thick. Like it's a good amount of paracord. And you could just burn the ends too if you didn't want these like little metal end pieces like that right there. I mean, you could just burn it. The only downside is as you pull it through the eyelets enough times, like that piece is gonna fray a little bit and it might let the paracord loose. And if it's not burned, the paracord sheathing and the paracord inside will start to fray very quickly. It's not something you can just cut it and use it and it'll be fine. It'll fray really fast. But I mean, like I said, I personally am not a paracord person. I don't like the way they feel. They kind of cut in the tops of my ankles and the tops of my instep real bad after the course of the day goes on and on. Might be because I pull my laces a little tighter than I should. It's one of the reasons I like leather. It's got some give, so I can pull it a little tighter. But I mean, I'm imagining anybody working in it would probably want to do somewhat the same.
Paracord World is one of them. They sell 100 feet for 14, so 25 feet for $6. I was trying to see. The last time I looked it up, it told me how many different colors and patterns they had, but
it's a lot.
It's crazy.
I have like 30 different colors in the closet from sleeving power supply cables. So
I think 550 is the one that people usually use.
It's either 550 or 750 for laces. Yeah. The problem is 750, it's a little thicker, and I don't think it'll fit behind the speed hooks. It is just a little bit too big in diameter to easily slip in there. But like I said, there are specialty paracords. Like I said, they do have the Kevlar reinforced ones that have Kevlar going through where the parachute cord pieces on the inside go through, which is kind of a specialty product. I don't know. Maybe Paracord World might actually sell Kevlar reinforced parachute cord. I have no idea. I've never looked. Wouldn't have never helped for anything I was using it for in the past. So I think it kind of makes people feel good. The Kevlar is self-extinguishing, so it does meet certain fire safety regulations, which is important for wildland firefighters. But the downside of paracord is when you pick these companies, they're going to come in very specific sizes. So you do have to do something with the excess. There's no getting around that. Can't just grab a pair of flush cutters and just trim it off.
We've got advantages and pros and cons to all of them, really. I mean, that Kevlar line really eats through eyelets and hooks.
Mm-hmm. That it does. That's a good point.
So, people get it thinking, oh, it's really, really tough, and without realizing that, oh, wait, It's too tough.
Yep.
And then leather laces, it depends on the person to an extent. Some people feel like they need to tie everything super fucking tight.
Mm-hmm.
And when you tie things super tight, yeah, you're going to break them. Leather laces are going to break over and over all the time if you over tighten it. And you don't need to. Don't need to tie your laces that tight. If you learn to live with the idea or accept the idea that it really doesn't need to be done with all your strength, the leather laces last really good amount of time.
Yeah. And paracord laces will also be more comfortable that way too. Like if you're yanking that hard on paracord laces, there's no way that's going to be comfortable. Because like I said, those don't have any give to them. And just imagine working 12 hours after you tried to, 800-pound gorilla your laces on that morning.
And it's going to eat through the kilties more too,
mm-hmm.
or the tongue if you don't have kilties.
Yep. Well, that's a really good point. If you are using paracord laces, that you can't not use a kiltie at that point. Like paracord will already, even if it's not the Kevlar line stuff, it'll destroy the little plating that's on all your eyelets, because most of the eyelets are brass with the plating. Like the nickel ones aren't all nickel all the way through; they're nickel plated brass. Same thing with the black ones. It's like a coating that goes on. I don't even think the black ones are 100% a metal coating. I think it's like some kind of anodization. They will chew through those coatings like nothing. It's not like they probably won't even get 6 months before half the eyelets basically look a different color. And if you're not using a kiltie, your tongue's going to get destroyed. There's just no getting around it. The weaving that's on it here, let's see if I can get it close enough in the camera, you can kind of see. But the weaving that's on this, come on, as you can see, is very abrasive and is super fine. These are all little cutting points that are just going to wear into whatever you're using. So it's not going to take long for it to start breaking your little 2.5 ounce tongue to pieces. And that can't be fixed without a rebuild. Well,
sometimes can't be fixed with a rebuild.
Well, they can patch it, but you don't want to see what the patch looks like. Like they just kind of skive your tongue down a little bit. They skive down a piece of leather, they sew right through it, and now you have a hard spot on the tongue that'll never feel like the rest of the tongue.
Yeah, the patch is thick. Patch is ugly. Patch probably has its own wear point. You don't want to patch if you can help it.
Yeah. So. But, it's not saying that leather won't wear through your tongue over time either. Some of the same things apply. This is why kilties are important. They're just, the way the trifold and fully gusseted tongues are set up just aren't meant to be exposed. A lot of people think they need to wear them because you're protecting them from like sticks and bushes and like all kinds of stuff out there. Kilties are really there to protect your tongue from your laces. That's its really main job. So, and it's just like with leather laces, or even paracord, it's a cool way to kind of stylize your boots a little bit too while you're at it. Oh no, I said style. Get some comments down there about how I'm not manly. I mentioned style, which means I alluded to fashion. How fucking dare I? But people do it. I mean, there's literally companies that make tons of different kiltie options because people like to accessorize their boots.
Yeah, it's usually not the people that are working all hard, blue collar, and getting them dirty, although some of those people do it too. I mean, I saw a pair like 2 weeks ago, somebody posted their pickup, and it was a boot that was obviously worked really hard. They were obviously blue collar. They were obviously tearing them up and getting them dirty. And they put like kind of a lime green paracord lace in there. And I think they were probably a Seattle fan, Seahawks fan. That's the colors, but he still put it in there.
Yep.
Even though he was getting his boots all dirty and fucked up, he still wanted some personality.
Yep. I
It's
think
not just the office guys doing fashion ideas and thoughts.
yeah, I think I saw someone asking in the PNWU group the other day about those little badge things that you can put on your laces, like the little American flag that goes down at the bottom. So, I mean, there's other ways to accessorize with the laces too.
Keepers, I think they're called.
Yeah, isn't it like Thorogood used to do that for a while where their laces had like a little USA badge down at the bottom?
Yep.
I think it was Thorogood.
And the USA one is one of the more popular. And there's some that are branded to the boot. I saw one that had like a cool looking skull that somebody had put on there. There's certainly options out there.
Yeah, those don't do anything.
I've never used them.
Yeah.
Anything I've ever bought with them in there, I take them out right away.
Yeah, those clearly don't do anything. I mean, there's nothing that they affect with your laces or any part or point of lacing the boot up. They don't have no benefit. They're just there for looks. But I mean, that being said, this is why leather colors exist. This is why paracord colors exist. People do like doing a little bit of these choices. Not that the colors really mean anything for the performance of the laces themselves. Though I always did find it strange that they always did the rawhide ones by leaving the two very dark colors from the tanning process, but never doing anything with the internal, like, lighter color. Since it's a loom tanned, is very strange. Would have been a quick dip that would have just made it uniform. But once again, it doesn't really matter that much.
Sure. I think it's. And they're probably kind of. I mean, most of them I've seen, it's more of a dye through, and as they cut it, they're just not dipping that area that is all of a sudden exposed. So kind of like a rough out. So it is the color, but it's not quite the color.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you've wondered, how they make these laces, and some of these leather laces are pretty long. Obviously, if it's a material, you can white weave something as long as you want. But leather lace can only be so long. And the answer is that they're made by taking a square of leather, however big, depending on what you're going after. But they take a square of leather, and like there's a cut that's put through the very center of that square of leather. And if you have the right tool, you spiral that out until you've gotten to the edge of that square. And that ends up creating a lot of real estate of leather.
Yep. The other way they could make it is if they have big enough sides of quality leather, they'll just run it through literally a strap cutter, set at those little tiny thicknesses, and get however long a strips you get out of a giant piece. They'll trim like the crap parts off before they do that, obviously. But that's only common in like if the whole hide happens to be really good quality. As once again, at the price of these leather laces, they tend to take them from hides that like have good quality points, but a lot of like kind of crap points that they couldn't get large solid pieces out of, which takes a decent sized piece that maybe can't be used for much else that could easily be a leather lace.
Can't remember what the rules are or the ratios are, but I want to say that like a 1 foot square piece of leather will get you 80 inches.
I don't remember.
I'm not sure.
It's something like that. It's like 72 or 80 because that's the standard 6-inch size, and that sounds about right. But yeah, I mean, it's another part of the process, right? Like, if you ever wondered like why a side can't make a pair of boots, it's usually because there's too many defects in it, and you don't want to use shit like the belly and certain areas of the skirt and the areas in between the neck and the front. There's just a lot of crap parts of a hide, which we've talked about in a number of episodes. It's also why it's interesting why only the Italian tanneries seem to be so interested in double shoulder, just because the double shoulders produce all usable leather versus partially usable leather that. Something in the process we're seeing a lot recently, and I'm sure leather laces probably suffer from the same crap. Like, if you ever had a pair of leather laces that probably snapped right away, it's more than likely you got whenever it was doing that spiral cutter, it had a bad spot in that leather that someone either didn't identify or didn't care was there and just let it cut the lace out. And you can usually tell.
It's
It
the
usually has
reason
like a
why
spongy
there's
feel.
Which is the reason why there's high quality and low quality leather laces. It's a matter of how picky that they're being with that piece of leather.
Mm-hmm. If it looks too much,
They
is
give
going to
you
hit the
crap
strap
pieces,
bend.
it'll break.
Oh yeah, yeah. You can usually tell too, like when a leather lace is about to break, you can feel like a sponginess to it, and when you pull, all the fibers go from like being weaving and all over the place to like straight like this, and then that's when you know it's about to snap. Like when all the fibers are straightening out, you're at the end of that it's time to just replace that lace before it breaks. And it's got like a spongy pull to it that you can just feel right away. I always know, like, especially with that one particular Horween 10-inch, like when I pulled on, it's like, oh yeah, this one on this right side is about to pop. It'll pop in the next 5 or 6 wears, and it usually does. Like I said, and I could fix that by using paracord laces instead. I have given this the honest college try. I cannot stand paracord laces. They don't work out. They don't work well with my feet. I don't like how they feel after being in them a couple hours. They do kind of fuck your boots up a little bit. Like I said, your eyelets, the little bit of leather, when you wear a pair of boots, right, and you've worn them long enough and you start getting like these like little notches right here, like this is like kind of like one of these ghost leathers, so it's super obvious. Like you can see where the leather lace is cut in where it's green, right? Like paracord's going to do that to your uppers, and it's going to actually premature wear the grain in those areas. So I personally avoid them if there's not some glaring need for them.
There are other materials that we haven't mentioned. I mean, there's
true.
nylon, which is similar to the paracord, and there's cotton.
Yep.
Like all your sneaker laces have generally been cotton over the years, or at least half of them have been. It's hard to say what's better with all of those, but probably not as good. The paracord and the leather are probably the best two choices that we've been talking about.
Yeah, I mean they've got cotton, just regular. They have cotton waxed. You have the kind of woven style that are like what you see in a pair of dress shoes. I don't think for boots though. I don't think any maker is gonna make long enough ones for that. So you're most likely going to be looking at like flat or round cotton laces, and tons of people make those waxed, not waxed. Like if you think there's a lot of paracord options, there's a ton of cotton lace options. I don't actually know anyone who uses cotton laces in any of their P&W boots though. Do you?
No, it's just the two that we've been focusing on.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if I've ever seen a picture anywhere. I don't think so. Like Alden Indies is the like one boot that ships with cotton laces that you see. They're the flat cotton laces that you see a ton of people maybe still using. But even then, most of those guys tend to swap theirs quite a bit. They don't stick with those long term.
People get into the best of the best attitude, and laces aren't the most expensive thing in the world, so it's something where it's a lot easier to go forward into the best of the best without it eating in your wallet. So they go for attitude and looks and feeling about superiority. So these brands that we buy from and talk about generally, the Guarded Good, the Pixa, the
Generation laces. Yeah.
Generation. I mean, it's kind of what these guys are all doing. They've decided, let's come up with a cool name. Let's offer like warranties. Let's offer coolness of the cord combinations and styles and patterns. And we'll give it a cool eyelet that we've spent time, or not eyelet, but eaglet.
Yeah, I can't remember what it's called. It's
I think it's called an eaglet.
Yeah, it's the crimped end here is what he's talking about.
We'll put some pattern onto that, and we'll market everything just right and mark it up enough to make a profit and sell it to everybody. And people get impressed by that. And, they think that the price and the marketing and the name inspires greatness, toughness, and coolness. And then there's like, I don't know, 5% of the guys out there that are a lot more price conscious, that are a lot more sure of what's going on. And those are the guys that'll say, fuck all that shit. I'm buying 100 feet of Paracord and I'm going to crimp this shit and billion times cheaper
No.
and not waste the money.
Yeah, and there's a secondary market too that we didn't talk about much, which is like Obanoff's sources laces from a bunch of these guys and sells their Obanoff's laces that are, targeted at the convenience of the work guys that they're rated for your rating and your fire certifications and stuff like that. So there is also a market of, people who target like the certification or the safety requirement necessities and use that as a means to sell a lot of these laces as well. But I mean, they're all out there. I'd say the hardest one to make yourself, honestly, is the leather ones. You can use like the standard belt scrap cutter and kind of make them yourself, but you're buying large sides. Like you're not going to be able to make that out of the square Jeff was talking about. It's done in a circular pattern to pull that off. If you're going to make yours, at home with a strap cutter, you essentially need 40-inch belt blanks or something like that. And that's probably not even long enough now that I think about it. Because you need something more.
You have to wrap it around and have thickness.
Yeah, you need something like 80-inch belt blanks. But yeah,
the spiral is the way to do it.
No.
And of course that is where to me at least, and I am someone who likes to drill down on getting something for the best price instead of falling into marketing and convenience. And even I've got to admit that if I were trying to do a fancy leather lace, Generation is the way to go, because they are doing all that variety. They are doing stuff from Wickett and Craig in a whole bunch of different colors. They are doing stuff from Horween in a whole bunch of different colors and styles. So you can actually end up getting a very specific lace that is totally the same lace as what your boots are made out of.
Yep. And Jesse from Guarded Goods offers a ton of options, and he's pretty cheap. I think most of his laces run between $8 for a set and like maybe $14 for some of the like really expensive ones. I mean, it's kind of hard to argue at that point, because you need some specialty tools to do this without, essentially buying very large sides of leather and strap cutting it out yourself.
For sure.
So
that's the one that I like the best. I think that's the best brand out there. I think he's providing a service.
Yeah, and Jesse's a small man shop that works out of a room in his basement. So you're not paying a ton of overhead for his business.
Valuable service. Great products. Great stuff you really couldn't do any cheaper or better on your own.
Yep. I think the only thing he doesn't make is I don't think he makes his own cotton laces, because he does sell some cotton and paracord options, though he does make his paracord. And the round Italian leather laces, he sources those, because you need a specialty machine after you cut the spiral out that pulls the edges off that is quite expensive, especially for a proven product, or an unproven product that you're not sure if they're going to sell or not. So kind of one of those deals. But closing notes.
That's it.
We don't like Paracord that much. Woohoo! If you do, this isn't a personal attack against you. We just happen to not care for them. Laces are one of those random, very personal things that mean a lot of different things to different people, that almost none of it can be scientifically quantified from person to person. So don't take our hatred of Paracord.
Reference, trial and error. Like Mike said in the beginning, some people always like leather, some always like Paracord, some like one for breaking in and then wear the other, and people can be directly opposite on that, which I find odd personally. Most people seem to think, oh, I'm going to use these leather laces while breaking them in, because they'll have a little bit more stretch, so it'll help with break in and help with hot spots that it's able to give as you're wearing them. And I I don't disagree with that. I only disagree with ever switching to the paracord. I just keep on using the leather. There are a very, very few number of people that will start with the paracord. And then when break-in is done, they'll switch over to leather. And one of those people I'm actually really good friends with. And I would give him a shout out, but I'm not sure that he wants to be shouted out in this situation because I'm not agreeing with him. But I don't understand why you'd want to start with a paracord. He actually not only starts with a paracord, but he starts off with no kiltie and paracord during break-in, and then he goes to leather
with a kiltie.
And I don't understand the logic. We've discussed it to a small extent, and I don't get it personally.
There's
lots of things I don't understand.
The only thing I can wrap my mind around is the paracord cuts into the leather quicker to maybe break in the pieces of the leather and hold it in place faster. But once again, I'm grasping at straws and have no proof of that. I'm just trying to think of something. Like the biggest benefit would be, as I showed earlier, the leather laces take time before they kind of cut into the upper right here in this spots here, and I guess that would expedite that very quickly. That's really all I can think of.
One thing he did mention, I guess, now that I think about it, is that it helps lay down and train the gusset.
Oh, it would do that.
In it, for the trifold. It's also going to damage that gusset at the same time. And then if you are going to do that, then do you also use the paracord for another week or two after you put the kiltie back in? Because that would, I guess, help train the kiltie as well. But
it's a good question.
I don't feel that either one of them need the extra training. So I don't, like I said.
Yeah, I've never asked. It might do it. It's possible. I mean, maybe it does train the kiltie quicker. I have no idea. I've never thought about it or put two and two together. I've never asked him if after he swaps to the kiltie and the leather, and if he does the kiltie first and then the leather. I don't know. Like I said, it's not the only person I've heard say that, but it's not a ton of people that kind of go down that particular path. Like I said, I'm just throwing a couple random guesses at what the benefits would be. And like I said, making everything cut in quicker is the only thing I can think of. But that being said, some of the brands do ship nylon laces instead of leather first and expect you to buy leather later if you want them. So who knows?
On a recent purchase, I did get sent nylon, even though I didn't want nylon, and I said so. But, accidents happen. And so I got the nylon, and I thought, okay, well, I've got the nylon, and I don't really want to go ahead and cut down a pair of leather laces right now. So I'll use it for the break-in. And I used it with the kiltie. And I can't say I was happy with the decision. I don't feel like it gave me any benefits, and I think it made rough break-in worse. So I took them out pretty quickly. I only did it because I was like, all right, well, I don't care about these damn things anyway. But each their own, right?
Yep. One step forward.
Maybe there is a great reason, and it's just completely going over my head. It happens.
As long as you're not running into it head first at full speed, right? It's a funny meme about that on the internet saying not everyone could be closers, and it's a guy that's trying to shut his garage and try to run out quickly before it gets too low, but he hits his head on the garage door and fucking goes straight up on his back and trips the sensor. Probably knocks himself cold out.
I have done that maneuver many times. I've never failed. I have tried it. I can't imagine. That'd be terrible.
Oh, yeah.
And embarrassing.
Oh, it was all on video, too, so. And now it's a famous internet meme of not everybody could be closers. So. Well, like I said, that's laces. It's a pretty simple yet always strangely divisive topic. You would think it'd be something everybody could agree on, but it always seems there's always at least 2 or 3 dissenting opinions that disagree with whatever anybody says about laces. So, figured we'd put the stuff here, let everybody see it. Like I said, leather or paracord, those are really your main choices. There are other options. Don't know why you'd do it with boots, but they do exist. Just maybe don't use like bicycle inner tube.
And I guess I touched on it, but I didn't go really too deep on it. But I said that I don't like wrapping the laces around the shaft of the boot before I tie it. And there are a lot of people that really like doing that. And I haven't taken a poll and asked people, do you wrap it around because you think it looks tough? Do you wrap it around because you think it helps it hold in place better? Or do you wrap it around because you know the leather lace is going to eventually break and you want extra lace for when it breaks so that you can readjust the laces and still use that leather a little bit longer without tying a knot? And, maybe it's all the above. Maybe people are planning through like that. Personally, I think that it rubs and it does damage to the upper as you wear them. And I think that my boot is worth a lot more than a pair of laces. And I don't want to put that crease or that rub into the boot. So it takes longer to wrap it. I don't think it's as good for the boot to wrap it. Laces are expendable. So not something I'll do.
Yep. I actually travel with a second pair of laces just to be safe. Never broken one and needed to use them, but I always keep them in my travel bag.
I know a lot of people that keep a pair of laces in the glove compartment. Whatever.
Yep. Laces are expendable. Let's get another set's $8. Not gonna jump through hoops to make my laces last for a long time when I could just replace them. But that's just me. Who knows? Maybe there's something I'm missing in that statement. Wouldn't be the first time.
Wasn't the most exciting episode, but like we said, it is things that people discuss. They'll get caught up between this is better, that's better, and then after that, they'll get caught up on which brand is best. For the Paracord, I don't think there really is a difference outside of like customer service, maybe, or how you feel about that particular person that's making those laces.
Pretty par for the course there. I mean, once again, when it comes to Paracord, it's got to be customer service is the main reason. It really can't be anything else, unless that one brand happens to get a special Paracord made for them. And if that's the case, put it down in the comments. I'd love to see it and actual evidence that they do get it made for them and it's not just coming from a distributor. Because if that is an option that they have convinced someone to make them a specialty Paracord that they can do in like any color with their super special weave and internal reinforcements, I would love to know, because that's honestly kind of cool. And like, who knows, maybe first Brothers in Boots collab is going to be Paracord laces that neither me or Jeff will use.
Special pattern, special words laced into the patterns.
Maybe we can get them to soak the Paracord in bourbon before they crimp the end of it.
Ooh.
I'm sure that does wonders for the Paracord.
And there is lots of white labeling out there. It certainly is possible. I have not yet witnessed it. I have heard people say, oh, well, I can get such and such pattern and color from such and such place. But when I look at it, like, yeah, Paracord Planet with their 1,000 different colors, it's in there. Just look.
Yep. It's just going to be a different name. So
maybe there is some white labeling going on. Maybe some of these places have gotten to the point where they're ordering big enough quantities that they can custom order some special Paracord that nobody's done before. Not something I'm aware of yet.
Nope, but I would love to know if you do. Comment down below. But anyway, that's it for this one. Like, comment, subscribe, all the usual YouTube stuff that, you know, certain algorithms and other things love to see, know, hear, touch, feel. What do they call that? Not activity. It's got a term. People.
Engagement?
Yeah, there you go. That's the one. Engage with your video. I was like, I can't think of the name of that. I don't know why it's escaping me. But anyway, see y'all in the next one.
Launch it.